So how do you prepare to open your eyes, especially before embarking on a trip? Let me offer a few practical suggestions. Take on a task for someone. Promise to bring a Hello Kitty purse back from Calcutta to your little niece, or maybe tell a friend you'll find her a Bible in Isfahan. Just having that task in mind will take you places you'd never go elsewhere and throw up all kinds of experiences you would never have otherwise, even if you never lay your hands on the treasure you've promised. Set yourself an assignment, make a film or write a blog or fill a sketchbook, even if there's no one at the other end waiting to enjoy it. As soon as I give myself an assignment, I'm no longer crashed out in my hotel room watching CNN. I'm out on the street asking questions, looking round the next corner. Travel is not a passive activity like sitting down to take in a concert or a movie. It's an active exchange. And any conversation is really only as rich as what we bring to it. Volunteer for some activity abroad. Join a soccer game in the street. Go to church in the place you visit. Or simply take in a movie or a ballet or performance of an opera, just as you might at home. Transformers in Lagos is never going to be the same movie you might see in Kansas City. I always remember the first time I came to Japan. I didn't speak a word of the language. I'd never studied the culture. And during my 2 weeks here, I really wanted to visit the temples of Kyoto, to see what Tokyo Disneyland looks like, to pay homage to the deeply moving memorial of the atom bomb in Hiroshima. I did all that, but I also thought I might observe this very foreign place through the lens of baseball. Every time I had breakfast in a coffee shop in the morning, I watched baseball on the coffee shop TV. Every time I walked down a back street, I noticed how the kids were playing catch. If I had an evening free, I'd sometimes go to a professional baseball game. Baseball was something I could understand even without speaking Japanese, and a way of seeing how Japan can take an all-American pastime and turn it into something profoundly Japanese. I soon found that they speak of 2 and 3 counts in Japan instead of 3 and 2 counts. Games end in a tie if the score is level after 12 innings. Players don't slide into second base because they don't want to injure the opposing players. Teams are effectively playing not to win, but in order not to lose. And the fans, well, they're more passionate than any you'll meet in Fenway Park or Yankee Stadium, with as many as 30 official cheerleaders and trumpets and drums. Suddenly, as a foreigner, you're not an outsider any longer, you're part of the team. Grandmothers offer you fried octopus from their bento boxes. Burly guys dressed from head to toe as tigers will envelop you in a bear hug. Even the jet lag you may be suffering after a long trip can be a way to see things differently. You can wander out to experience corners of the night that are often closed to you, or witness the graveyard shift even after you return to your hometown. Part of the point of any trip, after all, is to learn to see your own home differently, sometimes by appreciating the things that otherwise you take for granted. Returning from a trip to Vietnam, walk through the streets around where you live as if you were someone who just arrived for the first time from Hanoi. When my Japanese wife visits my mother's home in Santa Barbara, I instantly see the world I too often overlook through her fresh and largely appreciative eyes. We go to the zoo, to the Mission, to Universal Studios, all the places I might otherwise write off as tourist sites. And I try to offer the same for her when we fly back to Japan. You don't have to go very far to be transported. One day, a friend urged me to visit a retreat house just 3 hours from where I was staying in California. I'm a travel writer and journalist, not the kind of person who would otherwise think of going on retreat, but I happened to be sleeping on a friend's floor at the time because my house had just been wiped out by a forest fire some months earlier. And for only $30 a night, I realized on retreat I'd get a bed to sleep in, ocean views, and 3 meals provided every day. So I did drive 3 hours up the coast. When I got out of my car at the retreat house on top of a mountain overlooking the sea, the silence was pulsing. It wasn't just the absence of noise. It was the presence of something, maybe just everything I sleepwalked past in my usual life. I went down to the small but comfortable room in which I was to stay, and just at that moment a blue jay alighted on the splintered fence in my little private walled garden. I looked at that bird as if it were a miracle. A little later, bells began chiming behind me, and I really felt as if they were chiming inside of me. Every division between within and without was dissolved. After nightfall, I took a walk along the road under a scatter of stars, and I could see cars disappearing around the headlands 12 miles to the south. Truly, I felt happier, calmer, clearer than I could ever remember feeling. Which was funny because my family home before the fire sat at exactly the same altitude, with the same kind of blue jays and the same view of the ocean. But if ever I tried to take in the stars there, or just to sit quietly, I'd hear the phone ringing inside. I'd remember I have 50 emails to answer, or the Packers game is going to be on TV. And so I started going to that retreat house more and more often. I've stayed there now more than 95 times, sometimes for as long as 3 weeks. Nowhere has changed my life more dramatically. The fact it's so close to where I grew up makes it no less transforming than Nepal or Namibia. As Thoreau also said quite perfectly, I measure travel inwardly.